Mr. Martin Hunter. How are you?
I'm good, Dom. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to have you here, and I approve of your clothing choices.
Yes, thank you very much. I thought it would be very appropriate, the hat that you gave me when we went shooting. So I was like, it's good on me. So
Yeah, it's the Prophet Tool Belt hat. It does look good.
There you go.
I'm going to have to make...
which side is that? There you go. There's a little bit of
Unfortunately, the side with the logo is not your good side, my friend.
Oh.
That's fine. For those of you who are listening to this as an audio, we record this as a video as well. And Martin's wearing a hat that I gave out when I took clients and friends out shooting. We went and did sporting clays.
Correct.
A couple of months ago. Thanks for wearing that. That's great.
It looks good on me, so I'll take advantage.
It does look good. You should be giving me heck that I don't wear mine on the show.
Agreed.
How come I'm not wearing it? But we're in interesting times in this world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very glad that I know you, and I was able to get some time on your schedule to talk about crisis management and communications, because I think that's going to be very important for the teams that we have. Let me give people what I know of you, but then I'd like you to give a good, solid understanding of your own as well. Right? Yeah. So here's what I know. Successful businessman on many fronts, has been the go-to guy in dangerous work environments around the world. You were in New Caledonia. You've been in some other countries that maybe are not mentionable. But you've been working in dangerous environments, whether it's in mining, rail, food production, etc. And before that experience, you had some other experiences. And that lends itself very well to crisis management, which you're an expert in. Plus, you ran a renovation contracting company that you got going in under a year, and you're a multi-million-dollar business in a few short months, really, under 2 years. And so I think that makes you very well qualified to speak to the Prophet Tool Belt audience. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's all I know about you.
That's all you're allowed to know. No, just kidding.
Martin, why don't you, sorry, I mean, you and I know each other, but let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us who you are so that the people on the line understand how you come to be the person that we would listen to in a time like this?
Yes. So I come from the East Coast, and then where I come from, you kind of choose, you farm, you fish, or you go fighting. And then, so military out on the East Coast, and it ran through my family, both on my mother's side and my father's side. So military was part of my choice. Ripe old age of 17, just turned 18. Went through there, did very well, and got chosen and selected to be, we call it long-range reconnaissance, to be out there and jumped out of planes and threw grenades and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I did a specialization in emergency preparedness and response in the hazmat area. So nuclear, biological, chemical warfare.
You are the right guy to have on our show today.
Correct. So then I left the military and worked for Health Canada in the Nuclear Emergency Preparedness and Response Division, and lived through 9/11 with them. And then took my skills off New Caledonia with Valley, then oil and gas, and then started my own business because I was really good at what I did, and then applied the same principles to continuous improvement, went to Japan, learned some of that, and then applied pretty much all the safety, security, continuous improvement, and just moved up the ranks and applied that to small business and processes. So emergency response crisis management is really a set of procedures and flow that you just kind of recycle, and you change the rhythm depending on the intensity of the threat and the austerity that's faced with. So, and then, my wife said, okay, so we got to settle down. We can't travel the world anymore. We picked,
you mentioned New Caledonia. Where in the world is that?
It's a tiny little island between Brisbane, Australia, and Fiji that holds 20% of the world's nickel deposits in there. So,
I asked that question as if I didn't know, but I know that there's a lot of Rusa deer hunting there.
Correct.
So what you were at a nickel mine, or?
Correct.
And what did you do in that? That's a dangerous work environment. What were you doing there with your crisis experience?
I was the director of emergency services. So basically I was the fire chief for the city. So security, safety, medical as well. So managing all that. We had 2 typhoons while I was there. We had a major disagreement with the locals as well. So that was one of the areas. And then we operated in a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So if you want to talk about risk management in regards to people, environment, assets, and reputation, we had them all. And then we got Inco, which was Inco from Sudbury, got bought out by Vale, the Brazilians. So you want to bring another layer
multiple
to that.
Cultures on top of it.
Correct.
Well, that's very handy here because, as you know, we're dealing with tradespeople. You've run your own trades company. There's multiple cultures within our organizations. And right now, the world is in an interesting place. You know, from my side, I'm not you, but I don't know crisis management the way you do. But I'm telling everybody to stay calm, choose your media sources wisely.
Correct.
And we'll see what happens. But until it happens, we can only plan for the potentials. How are you guiding people through? Because now you operate as a fractional COO.
Correct.
How are you?
Both, yes.
Yeah. Sorry. So Martin, tell us what are we doing now? What's the proper course of action for a business owner today?
You follow the exact same process. You just change them, like I mentioned before. So any type of continuous improvement process that you have plan, do, track, adjust, right? So in that, when you're running a business, you're setting your goals, your yearly goals, 3 to 5 years down, and then you bring it back to 1 year, and then you bring it down to quarters. And that rhythm is defined by basically the nature of our living. We work through the seasons, and basically we have a calendar year. The process is the same, but it is completely compressed because as we see with COVID, we get new information on a 12-hour basis. So basically what you're doing is that threat and that austerity scenario changes regularly. So basically you're replanning, doing, tracking, and adjusting on a 12-hour basis. So what happens is that people tend to say, well, my calculation, when I work my business on, I'm on a month to month, or I'm on a week to week, depending on where you work, where now you have to compress your full continuous or business cycle in a 12-hour span.
And when you say compress it, you mean compress the communication, compress the checks and the balances, the metrics.
Correct. Right. So in the Army or whatever military, we have the mission planning, right? So which still applies to project planning, which is situation, mission, execution, support and logistics, and command and controller communications, right? So what's the situation? What do we want to achieve? How we're going to achieve it? What do we need to achieve it? And who needs to know about it?
Can you, it's amazing how calmly you lay that all out. Can you translate that now? You're the owner, Martin, and you're going to walk me through a meeting. Can you walk me through how you would lead that meeting with a team that might be a little, people get freaked out, people have concerns. Some people are calling in by phone. They've never done that before because we're tradespeople. We're working with our hands. Can you, if you're the owner, lead me through a little bit of that meeting, maybe just the setup and the first few bits.
So for those who have some military experience who are watching this, I'll go through the signals of, right, all stop. It's the hands up, right?
Yeah.
All stop. And then the fist down means that kneel down. So hunker down, right? And then come to me. So tapping your head means come to me, regroup.
Oh, okay.
Right? So all stop. So as we're walking through the bush, right, we've got that. So I'm the leader of, I'll say, everybody all stop, get down, go on one knee, get your angles of cover. Everybody watch your angles. And then once you've watched your angles, you've set time a little bit for everybody to observe, come back to me. It means that everybody, let's find a secure spot where we can discuss. And so in the area, so if I want to put some relation between the military experience and what happens through, in the military and when you're on mission, you're faced with threats that you don't know. So you're on high alert all the time. And you're in the all-star environment where the only thing that you have is what you have on your back, your wits, and maybe a knife to feed yourself, right? So come back to me means, hey, guys, let's get together and let's think about the situation. Because even if I'm the leader of the organization and pushing it forward, I only have my perspective. So for me and my team, it's 1 + 1 = 3. your view, my view, our view together. So we come up with a solution. And what I have noticed through not just COVID, but through 9/11 and the 2008 crash, is that people came up to me with their view and their options that I thought were much better than mine. And I was quite impressed with some said, hey, I'll take leave of absence. I'll do this, I'll do that. So there's a lot of, different views of the organization that can be brought together. So what do I do currently is apply the same principle. What's the situation? Okay. Where are we in our business? What's our P&L? What's our cost? Right? What are the projects coming down? What's down the pipeline? What's our forecast?
And people listening to the show, Martin, would recognize this because you've already mentioned it, and the people that work with me one-on-one will have heard this before, but when we do our quarterly strategic planning, that is the business continuity plan that bankers and lenders are asking them for now. So the people who've worked directly with me, and I'll bet you with you as well, already have it. We already do these rhythms. We know our metrics. We know our numbers. For those of you listening who might forget the exercise that we do to figure out our metrics, I'm Dom. I like to have some fun. The exercise is called a beach in Hawaii and a frantic call from a friend. And that's how we figure out the really key numbers that a business needs to run. Those kinds of things are important in this strategic plan. So some people listening will already know that, some won't. So Martin, I need to know my situation, my numbers, my key metrics. Let's break that down a little bit. What do you think a business owner in the trades, just a couple of high level things so people taking notes can say, okay, well, I will track that and I'll track that and I'll track the other thing. What are some of those?
So in the trades industry, what's your biggest overhead is labor, right?
Yeah.
So your biggest overhead is labor. How many guys and girls, I know good trades that are led by women as well. So apology. So what are the men and women? How much money do we really have, and how much is that do we need to hold fast to, right? Because I'm a firm believer in people first, and I don't say it. Most of these small business owners are really often, they'll put their employees first, right? You should consider yourself as an employee as well. So paying yourself first is important as well for the success of your business. So we're a team together. We have to ration the food. You might give yourself a little bit more, a little bit less, right? So in the military, the leaders always eat last. There's a great book by Simon Sinek that says leaders eat last. So that's something that's lived through the military for many years. The officer is the last person to eat. Yet it's still important for the officer to eat, because without the officer, we can't get good direction. There's not the strategic component to it.
Right.
So labor is the top component of that. So that is the most critical. How do we keep everybody employed? That's number one. So where else can we ask the staff to cut costs if we need to cut costs? And cutting people off is not necessarily the way to cut costs and lay off a whole bunch of people. There's different ways of doing it, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you look at your cash flow. So instead of just looking at the specific profit and loss, you really want to look at your cash flow. What are we looking at, right? Because you don't want to change your plan you want to look a little bit further down the road.
You want to have a projection, right? Yeah.
Correct, right? Yeah. So what's this COVID? Again, with COVID, the change is happening every 12 hours. So you have to kind of project yourself. Say, okay, if this lasts for 30 days, what am I going to do? If this lasts for 60 days, what am I going to do? So at Urgio, we use these three kind of mantras, which is ignite your curiosity. So really think about, where are you going with this, right? Be curious, ask a lot of questions, have your team kind of ask some questions. Then you have crystallize your thinking. So, okay, now that we've got an idea, here's where we're going. And then down the execution will be concentrate your actions, right? It's very similar to a good author and perfectionist. Like I'm a perfectionist. It's Tim Ferriss, who has this acronym: DEAL, direction, elimination, automation, and liberation. So all to say, you've got that. So you're doing your situation. Where am I going? What happens if this continues? What happens if this continues for 60 days, for 90 days? So then you set your trigger points and then your metrics against that.
Right.
That would be a situation, right? So
yeah, we had a similar conversation to that yesterday in one of my, I work with some people one-on-one. Not everybody's in the mastermind course, right? And so one of the people I was working with, we had a plan that worked backward. Their current revenue is 4 million. So what does it look like? What's the bare minimum people we can operate at 4 million? And what kind of sales do we need to have coming in? Well, what if it drops to 3.8? And what does it look like at 3.6? And what does it look like at all the way down? Right. To be honest, I stopped at 3.5 because it's not I don't know. We might go up. As a matter of fact, just in the last couple of days, people are still getting deals. Business continues to go on. Not everything has stopped. Not everything can stop. Work in progress, buildings that are going up still need to be completed. So, but working back, what are the trigger points? I like what you said there, because we look a little bit different at 3.5 than we look at 4. Correct. Some things have to change. It's just facts, but we have to deal with people with kindness and generosity. And this is a time when suddenly the playing field is leveled. We're all in the same boat. So it's important to be
I apply my 3 C's, right? Courage, compassion, and consistency, right? So that's kind of my fatherly thoughts every day. I kind of say, okay, I got to be courageous, Dad. I got to be compassionate towards my kids and my neighbors, and then I have to be consistent, right? That's the key 3 C's for us.
Yeah.
So that situation, and again, a lot of people will look at a balance sheet. I prefer to look at the cash flow, saying what does it really look like? What are the receivables that we're going to get? And I need to talk to my clients because my clients are in the same boat as I am, right? They want to hold on to their money as much as they can. So, hey, listen, what can you give me, right? I'm ready to do a little bit of back and forth, but I don't want to go 60 to 90 days or sometimes 120 days. So you need to be able to have that courageous conversation with your clients as well.
I think it's important to have the conversation early as well.
Absolutely.
Leaving that conversation to the last, if everybody else is already having the conversation, is not a good place to do it. And so just have that calm, level-headed conversation about how it's just part of the deal. There shouldn't be that much stress about it. It's just part of the deal, right? But I don't want to be seen as the guy that was grubbing for money when everybody else was trying to be calm. But I still have to be businesslike about it. How are we going to deal with this? And let's come up with a plan. Yeah, it comes
just an example, right? So I live by what I stand for. When all of this started up last Friday, I contacted my mortgage company, my bank, and I said, "Hey, listen, I want to pause my mortgage." And all of a sudden, it was announced yesterday that the 6 major banks in Canada are postponing. So again, that just demonstrates that when you're thinking about it continuously, when you have that day-to-day thought process of what are the threats, what's the austerity in front of me, it applies even in good times. Like I squirrel money away, just like, and now we're good. Now if it goes more than 90 days, then I think we're all kind of.
And where in your yard do you hide it?
Behind that picture of little happiness.
So I have another question for you on this. This has been really helpful. Here's what I've heard so far. Come up with a plan that's based on, or a line of communication that's based on plan, do, track, and adjust. That's a way of being. No different than people have heard on this show before, but I like the way you, so succinct, right? Bring structure to the situation, track your numbers, track your critical numbers now more than ever, because we're going to need facts is what's going to drive us through this successfully, not speculation and conjecture. And Instagram, by the way, is not a media source. It's an entertainment platform.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So what are the websites that, actually, let me ask this as a question, Martin. If I was going to officially check a website, which websites, obviously federal government, provincial government, state governments, those ones, but what would be some other resource websites that you would rely
on? So I have an intelligence officer. Her name is Tracy Hunter. She is my spouse.
I thought for a second you actually had an intelligence officer. Yike.
This event is called Human Human Intelligence. So how do I round a decision on information that's captured from different areas, right? So the government, everybody's got their what's in it for me to be able to communicate, and that's part of crisis communication. Is what's in it for the government, what's in it for them. So they all have their spin on it. So if you have a multifaceted input on it, then you can make your own opinion. And then, again, your opinion, the information that you're capturing should only be good to provide you with information that you're going to act on. So if depending on what you want to do, you look at right from the top, World Health Organization, the federal government, your provincial government, and those actions or that information should help you make decisions, because information without action is just kind of useless. So it's like having a great plan without implementing it.
And Martin, you may have hit a very important point here. Information without action is useless. And a lot of us, there's probably a feeling of, I've got lots of information, but I can't take action because I don't know what's coming next. And that's where there's some fears. We have to think about that from the perspective of our customers and our staff and our suppliers and everybody. And so for us right now, being a leader has never been more important. It's easy to, there's posters. Any captain can lead, on comp seas, right? But now we've got a stormy sea. And how are you? How am I going to rise to the occasion? Yeah, I've got another angle here, another question looking forward into the future. Because you've led teams both in the military and in dangerous work environments through crisis situations, what does the team look like after a crisis when the seas are calm again?
So when you have in the official and in the true form of emergency response and crisis management, you have preparedness, right? So how do you prepare for any event? You have the response component, right? So the preparedness is really the planning and preparation and the practice, right? The 3 Ps. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes progress. And then you go to the response. So the more planning, so what does Abe Franklin said, if you give me 6 hours to cut down a tree, I'll sharpen my axe for 5, right? 5 hours, yeah. So that key component, right? When you look at the military, man, drill after drill after drill after drill after drill, you're like, oh my goodness. But then when poop hits the fan, you're like, boom, you don't even think about it, right? You drop to one knee and you check your angles, right? So
you're ready to go.
I'm 48 years old. I've been out of the Army longer than I've been in the Army.
But you're ready to go when the situation strikes, because you've drilled, because you're already running on a strategic plan as a business. You just continue with the plan.
Correct. So when it's ingrained into your day-to-day operation, that's how you think and you communicate. So to answer your point, so you have preparedness, response, the recovery component before you do mitigation is again, it's a thought process, and it's kind of reversed a little bit about your response. So, okay, so how do I ramp back up? So anybody who's been on a large construction project so how do you go from your earthworks to your framing? How do you go from your framing to your commissioning? How do you go from commissioning to operations, right? So that flow needs to be, so you can't come back up, right? So you can be the best athlete in the world. If you've been laying down and you've been working hard, and if you want to jump at it, you're going to pull your hamstring.
Yeah.
So same thing for business. So you have to have a thought process again of plan, do, track, adjust in that same recovery phase. So how do I bring my business back up so that I don't crash and burn or burn everybody out? That thought process, that steadiness attracts a lot of confidence from either prospect clients and or prospect employees.
So that's after a crisis, and again, this will pass one day. It'll be better. Is your team going to be closer together? Are they going to be splintered apart? Is it going to be an every man for himself? What does it look like when you have led crisis before? Go in with this team, come out with the team. What's that cohesion like at the end?
There's oxytocin. So there's human beings are still mammals, and we work off of chemicals. And oxytocin is that huggy chemical reaction in our body that comes through, team sports, Army. You want anything that has work
intensity,
hard, play hard, that's really engaged and integrated in each other. So when you've gone through those hard times with your team, you don't even have to kind of look. They know exactly, okay, here's what we've done continuously. Here's what we've done because we've lived and worked together. I know that Martin's going to say, hold on, think about it first, right?
Plan.
Jimmy might say,
plan, do, track, adjust.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
So So every time I ask a question, for example, at dinner time when something's kind of, hazy, and I say, well, Tracy, what she said, don't be applying that behavioral on me there, Mister. It's so ingrained in me. So when you work hard and play hard and go through these events, you're going to come out stronger, especially if you ramp up and you take the time to plan your re-entry into the world of high efficiency and
productivity. Well, been fantastic. If you had a concluding thought for us in this, what would it be?
You know what? Just whatever it is, take the time to think about it. Think the time about, be curious. What is happening? How do I get forward? Think about what you're going to do. Just focus on what you think is critical for you and your business, and then concentrate your actions. Don't waste time watching news, doing this. If you want to take the time if you need it to make a decision, then make it an action into that. So the company name that I put forth was Urgio. So Urgio in Latin is to incite action, incite feeling, to move things forward. And Urgio came out of emergency. So urgence in French comes from the Latin word. So,
Urgio. Yeah. And is that how do people get in touch with you if they have more questions? Or
Urgio.ca. So urgeo.ca or martin@urgio.ca. And again, to all of Dom's listeners, in these times, if you need assistance, you need help, you want to talk to somebody who can help you through a little bit, I'm open to reaching out and helping everybody that can, especially your troops. For those who are listeners and of Dom, I mean, going through your coaching and keep on coaching, that's a big thing. And that's how you get better, is by somebody having an exterior or an outside perception of what you're doing. Because sometimes when you got your head buried in the sand and you got rifle in front of you, you don't necessarily see what's going on. So keep at it, Dom. You're doing a good job.
Well, thank you. I remember back to one of the stations we were at in shooting, and you came up beside me, kind of freaked me out, and you're like, hey, Dom, and you pointed out something I was doing wrong, kind of irked me a bit. But you were right, because I was trying to chase that stupid clay pigeon. It comes so fast. But you're right. I shot more by having perspective. Somebody who came and cared enough to say, hey, like, stand on both feet. You're on your toes. You need to be firmly planted, right? It was one simple tip, and I shot more clays after that.
Yeah. And technically, when you look at impact and probability and risk management, make your own decisions on vital information that you have, and say, okay, how is this impacting? What's the probability? And make a rational decision.
Well, the probability was high that I shot more clay pigeons. Mr. Martin Hunter, I appreciate you coming on the show in such short notice. Clearly, you're the right person to be speaking to in these times. So thank you for taking the time to be on here. I really appreciate it. Look forward to having you on here again as a guest in the future. And I hope you and your family are well.
Same to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin. See you later.